ones you see stunting is the ones who never had none. So first piece of the pie, we try and grab something. Snatching and running, packing and gunning, landing 100. Flashing in front and scared of everything, but call it nothing. We don't know that old true blue blood slave money. War heroes take it to their grave money. Cotton money, cane money, diamond blood stain money. They tell us to save money, we don't get paid money. Only talking small money. 2 for $5, pack of Pampers, black and mild money. Mattress pile high money. We know sneaker fly money. We know racks and racks money. What about that tax money? Oil money. Africa's rich soul money. So thick you can't fold money. British East Indian Company, old money. Gold money, limestone coal money. It's like the whole world is upside down. And the real royalty has been reduced to clowns. Lost in the sauce. And we don't know which way to go. They blew the nose off the Sphinx, so we never know. We royal, we royal. We're greater than they say we are, so go ahead and call me star, Wake up if you dare, let's get free from this love affair.
What's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like here for the Real News Network. I'm Jared Ball, my main man, Bashi Rose, and we are in the mix, in the building, in the house with the Maimouna Youssef. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. It's been a long time. I've been,
Yeah. So before we get into a bunch of other things, let's talk about some of the new music you have coming out. And then we're going to double back and talk about who you are and your career and all of that. But I just want to start off with letting people know we've got a chance to listen to some of it. Thank you. And it's going to be hot. I can't wait already. So I know you must be, so tell us a little bit about what's coming. And like I said, we'll double back and talk about who you are in your career.
Yeah, I have lots of music coming. Actually, I've been recording since probably October. But one of the projects is a project I've been working on with Ninth Wonder and the Soul Council. So that's going to be a project in and of itself that's coming out soon. I'm excited about that. Common's on it. Music Soul Child is on it. Rhapsody, Odyssey. So that was just a dope project to make. I'm also finishing up an a cappella project that I was telling you was inspired by some work I did with Bobby McFerrin last year. And so that's on its way. Now I'm just strategically placing when everything's going to drop. Then I have some other music too as well. I started recording a project, kind of like a world music project. And the first single is featuring Femi Kuti. We actually recorded it in Lagos at a studio there when I performed at the New African Shrine. Yeah, it's a lot that's going on. So I've just been, busy working like every second of every day to get the music finished, and I'm very close to it all being done, and just dropping it periodically. So between this summer and next summer, you'll be hearing a lot of music from me. That's
what's up. I'm impressed by the fact that you sort of handle everything. I mean, musically. So I know you in this album with Ninth Wonder, obviously you're working with him and several other producers. But you in the past, you do everything from production to all the singing, the backup vocals for your own work. You write the songs. I mean, and we even got a little taste of that in your a cappella track you shared for us, where you're doing the beatbox and all the backing vocals. So what is it like having all of that skill set? You rhyme, you sing, I mean, and then, what is it like to have all that skill set, as you approach new projects or even as you start to work with other people? I mean, I'm just kind of curious how all of that works, how the process maybe of putting all that talent to work for a project.
Well, what's funny is that I'm actually just starting to even utilize it. Because I think in the past, when I first got into the music industry, like legally with a deal and things like that, I was always told to turn down, to not be so big, to not do so much, choose something really small to be. And
why? What was the logic behind that?
I think that's just the industry format and formula. They'll tell you that people cannot understand and appreciate something that's too deep or too vast. people are small-minded and they don't want to think, and so you have to dumb it down and be small in order to be successful. And I did my best to follow that formula. It does not work for me. It just doesn't work for me. Don't do it for me. And in one way or another, I think I've finally now just come to the utilization of more of myself than I've ever utilized before. Like, granted, in the first blooming, a lot of it just happened because I had to. A lot of it was live band music, and there was just no one else there to direct the band. So I was the director and the arranger, and I was there mixing every guitar riff and every bass line because there was just no one else to do it. And at the time, though, I don't think I really trusted myself to do it, but I still did it anyway because it had to be done. And it was only afterwards when you hear the feedback and people are like, wow, that's really incredible. You're like, oh, okay, I did a good job then. Okay, it's hard to really know. You know yourself more and more as you just keep on being yourself. So
just to clarify, the record industry, the music industry sees someone with all of these multiple talents, and instead of kind of like, as a sports fan, maybe seeing the 5-tool baseball player and being excited and saying we got to sign him and have him, they want to turn it all down and narrowly, I guess, deliver you as a product.
Yeah, I mean, they'll want to sign you, but then they won't know what to do with you. They'll hold you hostage, until they can figure out what to do with you. And sometimes they never do. And that was always what was so scary for me. I decided at one point, that I'd rather just be independent and figure me out on my own, because at least I knew I had my best interests at heart. And whereas a lot of times labels would just hold on to you so no one else can sign you, so just in case you blow, they don't look like idiots, but they don't really know who you are, how to maximize your potential. And, you see it all the time with so many greats. I mean, I think Phyllis Hyman is a great example. There are always a lot of greats who a lot of times labels just don't know what to do with them.
Even heard that just retold in the story since he passed with Prince, and Warner didn't know what to do with him at first either, saying he does everything, and they had trouble dealing with him too.
Right. Yeah. And then, I think as a woman, there's a whole nother level of criticism for being controlling, when it's just like, I'm just doing what has to be done because no one else is doing it, And especially coming from a matriarchal line, you see women do everything. Women just fill every slot. They just do because it has to be done. And we just don't say, oh, that's not my job. You just do it. And so that translates in every other form of, of life. Like when I first started my band with my cousin, we were teenagers, and, we didn't have any managers or any budget or anything. I got a job and I paid for studio time, and we got in the studio, we recorded. There was nobody, I didn't know people who did layout, design, artwork. So I went to my uncle who had a t-shirt print company and was like, do you know any kind of way that this can happen? Like, could I take this t-shirt logo and then like put it on the CD in some kind of way? And he helped me work through it. So I designed the album cover artwork. I didn't know how to do it, but it just had to be done. So I just had to figure out how to do it. Then I built a website. I didn't know how to build a website, but I just kept asking people, hey, do you know how to do it? Do you know? And I got a little more information from each person until we had it, And so we're 17-year-olds with like a fully functioning LLC, websites, business cards, logos, the whole situation, And my aunt was very helpful as well. She was kind of like our manager at the time, even though she didn't necessarily know anything about the music business, but she just cared about us, and wanted to just make sure whatever we wanted to do, we were going to be safe and, productive doing it.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because you have, not only have you already had a fascinating career, but you have a fascinating backstory as well, beginning in Baltimore, now here in D.C., but you come out of a musical family, you come out of a tradition, musically, but also racially, ethnically, being a Black indigenous woman. Let's talk a little bit about that. Even let's just start with your mother. You were just mentioning her. Not all that you have gotten from her in terms of this lineage, again, racially and ethnically, but also musically. Let's start there.
Yeah, my mother was my first teacher. People always ask me, where'd you study music at? And it's like, in my house, you know. My mother, she the way she taught music was, she'll say like, you know, come shuck this corn or come pick these greens. And then she'll just sing something and say, harmonize with me, you know. Take the high note or take the low note. You know what I mean? And she'll just mess with you, singing different parts and see if you can, you know, follow me, stay with me, you know. So she taught me that way. So like I learned improv and things like that early. Like I learned music very organically. It wasn't like reading music. It was like music was just life. It was culture. You know what I mean? It just, yeah, it was like living and breathing, you know. And then maybe when I was about 5, my mother told me, she said she knew I could sing by the way I cried. And when I was an infant, she told my father, she said, she's going to be able to sing. He said, no, how you know that? You can't tell. She said, I can tell by the way she cries. It's very melodious. She's going to be able to sing. And it's interesting because I have 13 siblings and only myself. And I have a babysitter sister that came much later who actually sings. So she was on point about, you know, knowing that I could sing. And we started a group, my cousin and I, the one who I later started a band with. But when we were kids, we had a group called the Children of Liberation. So we did like Eloise Greenfield poetry and African drumming and dancing and African music. And maybe about 7 or 8, my mother and my grandmother and myself, we started to travel as 3 generations. My grandmother was given the vision that it was important to pass the culture on. So like after the 70s, when the Freedom of Religion Act was passed, the Native people could practice their religion and culture publicly without being arrested for doing sweat lodge and
that was only in 1970. Like 70 and change somewhere. Right. Still kind of brand new.
Yeah, because earlier than that, you know, like sweat lodge was illegal, ghost dance was illegal, rain dance was illegal. And so once it became legal, we went back to relearn, you know, everything that was lost. Because my grandmother's from Mississippi, so they knew that they were Choctaw. Like they always still kept it with them, even though they had to still assimilate into regular popular culture, you know. At some point, she moved to the projects in Chicago, but she always knew that she was Choctaw. So as soon as she could practice again, you know, she trained and became a water pourer for the Sweat Lodge and began relearning how to do bead work for the powwow. So by the time I was born, I started competing in powwows from the time I was 5 until I was maybe 14. You know, learning how to do the traditional bead work and things like that. It's funny because, you know, I'm living 2 different lives. Like in the summertime, I have to go to my grandmother's house to learn tribal drumming and singing and dancing and beadwork. And, you know, other rest of the time, I'm in Baltimore sitting on the steps eating Freezy Pops, cussing at people and, you know, talking trash and rapping, listening to Wu-Tang Clan and America's Most Wanted and whatnot. So it's like these 2 different lives because my grandma was not going for none of that, you know.
So, you know, the Washington Post, by the way, just ran this story saying that 9 out of 10 Native Americans don't have a problem with the name Redskins.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what they came
That's what they came up with.
That's the statistic they created. Is that right?
So just real quick on that. When you hear of that name being here in D.C. or the Cleveland Indians or anything like that, what is your response to these names?
I mean, it's derogatory. There's no doubt about it that it's derogatory. It's unfortunate that we learn to just accept it as life. You know, like, you know, somebody asked me when I was, it was an Indian girl. I can't remember what country I was in, but she was asking me, she's like, yeah, I see on TV, you know, how racist America is. And, you know, what must that be like to like, you know, grow up in a racist environment? What's that like being Black? Like, how does it feel every day? It's like, I don't know. When you've never lived outside of it, you don't know what it's like to not live in a racist environment. You get used to it. You know what I mean? Like when you see cops patrolling or if I'm walking down the street with my father and they grip him up and throw him against the walls, just like you get used to it. It's just like, it's just a part of the beast that you learn to swallow because it's just, you don't know how to stop it, you know? So I guess it's kind of like when I hear the name, I know it's racist and I know it's derogatory. I'm just like, that's just them being them again. I don't know that I necessarily am outraged by it, but it's, again, because it's like, it's been beaten over our heads so many times. But I'll be honest, I like my racism out front. You know, if you're gonna be racist against me, please just say it to my face. Don't say it behind my back. I like to know. You know, don't.
So then, to that extent, the Washington football team is doing that. Then they in your face with it. They're at least playing that
part about it. I think the sad part about it is that people are trying to pretend like it's not what it is. Just say what it is. You're racist. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know, I don't know. I know Nightwolf we've talked a lot about that. You know, in a lot of the organizing he's doing, trying to prevent it. I don't know what's going to be the end result of it. And honestly, it's kind of just like, if they do change it, that still does not change the way Native people are treated. It doesn't change the history, what we've had to go through, and what's still going on right now. You know, so it's like, if that change does happen, I hope that it's used as a catalyst to reflect other issues that are going on. That is like, let's shine a light on what's happening. Because a lot of people don't even know that Native people are still living. You know, like when I went to Australia this year, I thought that was really interesting. I looked at Aboriginal people the way like Europeans look at Native Americans, right? And I noticed that when I was in Europe and I was, you know, talking to somebody about being Native, they're like, oh, wow, I can't wait to come to America and meet some Native people. And it's like, yeah, you know, you probably wouldn't unless you went to a reservation, unless you were, you know, in Oklahoma or in North, you know, so there are some in North Carolina or South Dakota. And it's interesting because I viewed Australia the same way. I felt like I'm going to meet some Aboriginal people. We're going to be playing didgeridoo together, right? I know this is terrible. But I had these ideas and I couldn't wait because I read so much about the culture and the artwork and stuff like that. And I toured Australia 3 times. I might have seen one Aboriginal person 3 times. And it was like heartbreaking to me. You never even see evidence that they even existed except in gift shops. And I was like, wow. And I was talking to them. They said, well, it's the same thing that happened to the Indian, you know. And I think about like, damn, that's true. This is our country, but you don't see any reflection of anything Native unless you in a gift shop at the Native American Museum. You know what I mean? Like, you have to go to a museum to visit Natives now. It's insane. You know, granted, you know, the indigenous population lives within African people and within white people and within Latino people. Like, they have merged, you know, with other cultures in order to survive, you know, the wipeout. But it's kind of crazy when I saw that. Like, and they were saying, well, you know, if you drive hundreds of miles inland, 1,000 miles inland, you know, you can see some of their townships, you know, there's a lot of alcoholism and they're not allowed to grow their own food and they can only hunt if they got a certain permit and, you know what I mean? The BS, it's the BS. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. That's why, like, when I went to New Zealand right after that, I was so taken aback by the Maori people. Now, you know, I said, man, when the British must have landed in New Zealand, they must have said, what kind of people are these here? Because they're warriors. You know what I mean? Like, they put their tongue out to show you they'll eat you. Like, I will eat you. You know what I'm saying? If we fight and you lose, like, you're dinner, dude. You know, they'd never met a warrior like that. But it's like they had to be that extreme to still have their culture intact. That's why when you go to New Zealand, the people are alive. The city is alive with the Maori spirit. They know their language. You see their artwork all over the city. Their streets are still named in their traditional tongue. You know what I mean? They have their welcoming tradition still intact. Like, we're in the airport and there was just like a random, you know, somebody's greeting their families coming back and they go into they call it a haka. They go into the whole tradition and it's just so beautiful and it's normal. Nobody's just like security, you know, because they can't, because it's their country. And they were not like colonized the way like the Aboriginals were. Like, they have a treaty with the British where they still own like a good 70% or something like that of the original lands. I mean, it took them a while to fight and get it back. But it's just, I was just so impressed. So like, I went to one of the areas, I can't think of the pronunciation of how do you call where they live. But, you know, and they have a whole tradition. You can't even walk on the land without them welcoming you in with this ceremony. And I love it. I love it. It just made me so, so happy. And he was saying, well, what are some of the traditions you all have? I was like, man, it's different at home, you know. But they're warriors. And they had to be so extreme to get any kind of respect. They're still fighting. But it's just like, you see the spirit of the people are alive there, you know.
There is a warrior tradition, I think, that is self-evident in your music and in your art, and not only in the lyrics or the sound, but in the style of presentation, your style of dress, your own physical presentation in video and on stage. Yet you also have this very interesting relationship with what might be considered the mainstream music industry. You do have the Grammy nomination with The Roots. You do have connections to more popular artists like Common, and and you could tell us a little bit more about all the people that you performed with. How does that warrior spirit, or how do you work that warrior spirit in those spaces?
I'm learning more and more every day about myself. And it's funny because, when I came in the game really young and not really knowing myself and wanting to fix myself to be able to be accepted, because I knew I was different already. I was homeschooled until I was in the 10th grade. And it wasn't until then I realized, like, oh, other people don't live like we live, like they don't see the world the way we see it. Like, they don't understand the culture and the tradition and the way we do. I thought that that's just how life was. I didn't, because I had not really assimilated into regular American culture. Like, my people live like under the floorboards of America, like real talk. Like, they still the type people that put money in mattresses. Like, it was just a whole nother a whole nother world. So I remember calling my mother saying, "Mom, I don't think I can do this." Like, from Philly. I was like, "Mom, I'm too different. I'm weird. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to be like them. Like, I don't know how this is gonna work out for me." She said, "Nah." She said, "Be yourself." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what attracted them to you, is to, to be yourself. But of course, that always, when you really, really are you, that's always gonna incite a bit of fear. You know what I mean? When you are a kind of person that you could take it or leave it. You can't really be like toyed with because you don't really care like that. You understand? It's just like, I'm down to do this. This is great. Like, let's do it. But I'm not willing to do that to get it. You know what I mean? And so that can be tricky. I mean, all I can really say is, like, I'm learning more and more about myself as a spirit, as a woman, especially becoming a mom. And so my journey has just been really, really interesting. I've just been learning more and more about how to walk in my power and walk in my light. And like you said, that warrior spirit, when to use it, when to be the spook that sat by the door, and how to use it to uplift and inspire, how to use it where it matters and not waste it where it don't.
Into your motion picture. I hate sappy love songs. I don't like neo soul. I don't like in my bed after 6 in the morning. I got a problem with commitment. I'll be the first to admit it. I don't like sensitive news, consuming too much estrogen and they all in their feelings. Cause I'm unattached like Krishna was, but I'm still trying to learn how to love.
Sort of dovetailing off of that last question, given the conditions of the people, you talked a little bit about the still struggling conditions of indigenous people, the still struggling conditions of African descended people. What is the role, as you see it, given those conditions, of art and the artist?
It's just the storytellers to document the times accurately. I think one of the issues I have with the music business is that it looks to tamper with that. It looks to alter the story, the truth of the reality. And I think that that's dangerous, to not accurately document the story, and then to encourage artists to mimic each other as opposed to telling their authentic truth based on where you're from, what you've seen, how that's. It's just like if you were a journalist, we are journalists. And if, your story was to be corrupted, by someone saying, no, tell it like this, or you got to say it this way, or don't tell that. I know you saw that, but that's not what I want you to say. That's dangerous, because it messes with history. It really does, And I know so many artists who are not making the kind of music that they want to make. They're not able to tell their story. They're not able to be honest. They're not able to be authentic and creative, and it's a disservice to everybody involved.
You were playing for us a little bit ago your track Panoramic. And it just, I was just thinking about the panoramic view of Black, particularly female life in this country. And then you were also talking about a song you have done that's going to come out for Sandra Bland. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about this panoramic of Black life, of Black female life here in the United States or elsewhere, given what happened to Sandra Bland and in which we see happening with the Black Lives Matter movement, led mostly by women.
I think for one, popular music, again, does a disservice to Black women throughout the world. And I can say that as a Black woman traveling abroad all the time and having to constantly correct this perception that, we're all like thoughts, or we're all supposed to be objectified, like having people come up to you feeling like they can touch your body just because like they've seen a video where it was okay. Like really kind of crazy stuff like that. Like, what's in your mind? Like, are you on drugs right now? But it is this idea that it's okay for Black women to be objectified and that, they're only good for one thing. And even let's go further to talk about the shame and disgrace associated culturally with the Black body, the Black female body, and now having it be mimicked. And it's okay when it's not on a Black body, but it's not okay when it's on a Black body. And just that whole conversation and how, just how we're perceived and treated worldwide. I mean, like when I was in Nigeria, we were doing a television show. And one was saying, I didn't know Black people like you existed, like she was saying, why do you wear African clothes? You're not like African, you're American. Like, you don't have to do this. You can just be, you can just be.
You don't have to do it.
Right. And it was just kind of interesting. I said, it's not just me. I said, there are lots and lots and lots of us that are not the norm. We're not what you get fed on your television. It's a lot of us that are thinkers, that are educators, that are revolutionaries, that are just, we're doing our own things. We're hippies, we're skateboard kids. We're not following the norms. We're doing what makes us feel amazing inside. And
who are proud of that connection to Africa.
And who are very proud of the connection to Africa, So, and that was kind of interesting too. Because like the band I played with, they were all like, 19 to like 25. And it was really interesting that because their school system is British curriculum, they never learned about the slave trade. And that was really crazy to me. So I could get why some of the, who, if they've never had a conversation or talked to somebody who's politicized or a Black American who knows, they may never really, really know. Like they don't learn it in school about the slave trade. So they may feel like, well, why y'all feel like y'all African, And so that was really interesting. Like, when I came over there, I already knew songs in Yoruba. I knew songs in Swahili. And when I was singing them, they would just be baffled. Like, how'd you learn that? Like, I was like, the same way you learn Drake. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like, that is something that I'm proud of. Like, at some point, I know I'm from there. All of creation is from there. And, I said I wasn't going to break down because I'm from an extra pro-Black family. So I was just like, look, I'm good. I'm not going to cry when I get to Africa. Like, I've seen enough. I've been in enough ceremonies. I've seen enough movies. I'm good. And I was cool for a minute. It wasn't until a girl gave me a gift. They were bottles, empty bottles at the marketplace that had been rum, had been in them. And they were sold for a Black life. And I broke. That's when I broke. I broke down. I couldn't. I was like, oh my God, like that's a
pretty good one to break down.
Yeah. I was like, that's what my life would have been worth, So that, but going back to what you're saying, just about women and this burden, bearing this burden that we've had to carry across the waters here of keeping the tradition alive, of raising these children of rape, of abuse. And having and still being expected to be saying, I hate this whole idea of angry Black women. Like, yeah, if you had to deal with what I had to deal with, I think that you'd be angry too. I'm just saying, I think you might be a little pissed off, just a little bit, And I think that it's I don't know. I'm starting to see more forums where women of color in particular, are able to talk about these things, and without it having so much judgment and negativity, put on it. Like, you know what I mean? Where's a safe space where you can tell them why you mad, son? You know what I mean? Where you can let it out,
You played a little bit of this song and Say My Name. Powerful. And again, as I'm sure you must feel, I can't wait for people to hear it. Yeah. But so are you, what are your thoughts of the Black Lives Matter movement? To what extent are you interacting with it or following it, or what is your response to it so far?
I mean, I think it's necessary. It's productive. I'm proud of them. They've made huge waves and impacts from just being a hashtag that you kind of just, you heard about, like, okay, I see what you're saying, okay, to like, oh, wow. Oh, for real. Oh, for real, it's a movement. Like, oh, word, And
that, as all movements do, create victims like Sandra Bland that you were talking about too.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's an important movement. It's sad that it has to be a movement, but it's an important and necessary movement to be had nonetheless. And it's, I commend them for standing up and saying that in the face of so much criticism, so much backlash and all that. It's not easy to tell the truth, when it's unpopular, and.
So speaking of politics, I did want to also ask you where you were with, what captures so much attention right now, the 2016 presidential elections.
I don't got no comment. I'm with Lupe on this one. Nah, I don't have no comment.
I got one more question. I know you didn't get a comment, but just curious. Could you see yourself at any point aligning with an alternative electoral political move, like a third party or some other development? Could you ever see that being of interest to you at all?
Like if there was another candidate,
like if the Green Party were to pick up steam to the point where it was, because actually I just heard this piece today that Jill Stein, who's the presidential nominee of the Green Party, said that this month, May into June of 2016, they are where the Bernie Sanders campaign was in terms of popularity in the country at the beginning, when he first started. So that's
never really been an option before. Like, it's always kind of like, yeah, we know you guys exist, but right. It's not a viable option. The idea that it will really happen wasn't. But now it really might be.
So I mean,
I would be open to that. I really would, because it's slim pickings out there. It's rough in these streets. I can't even tell you how many people around the world, like. I've been on a world tour just about for the past 3 years. But in this past, since this election has been going on, how many people throughout the world have been like, hey, Trump isn't going to win, is he? How many people are like, hey, if he wins, you guys can come over here. You can come live with us. So
I hope you got some numbers and addresses.
Exactly. Or how many people have been like, we're leaving. There's going to be an exodus if that happens. But,
of course, that would make him happy too.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see, As much as yeah, we'll see. Could you imagine this America without people of color? Like, you ever see it Saturday Night Live had the funniest skit where this guy was talking about how much he hates Black History Month, how it's unnecessary. Why do they get their own month? And they did A World Without Black People. And it was so corny and just horrible. And it was basically all the inventions that Black people made, like they never existed. Oh, wow. It's actually really funny. Saturday Night Live, they've been coming with it. Like their social commentary stuff has kind of been really surprised. Like, go ahead, Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
You ever do any you ever perform with any go-go bands? Any plans to do that?
I haven't really. Sometimes with Sound in the City, we might be jamming out and then vamp on something. I'm always trying to make Biscuit do it, but he's probably so tired of playing go-go. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I keep trying to make him turn everything into
a little pocket.
Yeah, no, I love it. And then I like the bounce beat, the newer go-go, not a lot of go traditionalists. They don't like it. They don't like what the new kids is moving to. But you know, back in the day, because real talk, I am from Baltimore. Back in the day, I was opposed to doing go-go because I was firm to my roots that we only dance to club music, you know. And I had to like rep for the Be More Streets. But I done been in DC so long, for real. I'm a DC chick now. I done been here so long, you know. My family in Be More don't like it, but I'm like, you know, I'm playing both sides of the fence. Why not? We 30 minutes away, like. You know, DC got better restaurants. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You ain't got no busboys and poets. I can't with y'all.
You had mentioned off air that the forthcoming project with Ninth Wonder and the other crew that you're working with on that, you had said that you thought of it as a winter album. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, what does that mean? Why is it?
It just feels moodier, like. It feels like you driving in the winter, like you on the highway going somewhere. The windows is rolled up, the windows not rolled down. Like the coloring is a little bit more like purples and blues, some grays, and like some greens, and like that's just how it feel. And even I didn't play a lot of like the love songs, but it's like they bunned up love songs. You know what I mean? They not like the free love universal healing. They like, hey boo, hey boo boo, it's cold outside. You know what that means. Yeah, so it felt like that to me. And I mean, I wrote it in the winter, like, and I was, on the highway most of the time. Like, I know that's like the most unsafe time to write, but I do write when I'm driving. But I have just like a little recorder, not like with my hand. I keep my hands and eyes on the road, but I do like mentally, like I'm freestyling while I'm driving, and I'll probably just like keep a little recorder and just push record while I'm driving and just like, sing the lyrics into my recorder. So it's still safe, but
That also reminds me of something else you mentioned a little bit off air. We were talking about the theft of twerking, so to speak, right?
Oh my God!
I mean, but this question of sexuality and fetish,
right.
And the fetishization of sexuality.
Yeah, and it's unfair. God, my assistant, she's gonna love to hear this. She calls me Twerk Nation, but I said it's unfair that it's like either you have to be a hoe or like a nun, and it's like there are so many other positions, and just so many. Just other slots that are in between those two things. And like, as I always tell her, it's, for me, it's cultural. You know what I'm saying? Like if you go anywhere in the Caribbean or if you go anywhere in Africa, in particular in West Africa or South Africa, you'll see women are in control of the lower region of their bodies. And it's not always an invitation for a man to come like hump you. Like sometimes women be having competitions, battle. It is great exercise for the glutes and the thighs, the quads. But yeah, it's cultural. Babies, they know how to whine. And it's not just women. Men know how to whine. I think that it is good for your chakras, for your first and second level. And
Bashi said your grandmother taught you. Mother taught you.
Yeah, I think so. And so it's like now that ever since I feel like, Miley Cyrus, had her whole escapade. Now everybody is on this like tirade about twerk, 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 twerk. And it's like they're almost over-sexualizing it in a way that's making it perverse. Right. When whining, and I'm not even calling it, I don't know who named it twerking, but like the whining is not perverse. It's not perverted. It's really nothing about it is, but it's like, in modern cultures and religious cultures, you have this hard line between secular and sacred, and I think that is it is a very inauthentic way to live because we're not separate. You know what I mean? Your sexuality cannot be separate from your spirituality. When you separate those things, you cause dis-ease within your body. You just do. You know what I'm saying? Those things are related. I mean, if you just think about God is a creator, and through this sexual process, you are able to co-create with God to bring forth life. It's just like, how can that be demonic? Like, so yeah, I'm pro whining. My My assistant calls me Twerk Nation because I'm just like, every song to me, it's always an appropriate time to do it. It's just
We had a conversation a little while ago off the record about your work within the Grammys.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by that because obviously, as we've talked a little bit about, you exist outside of the mainstream so-called industry, but you have this connection to the Grammys. And you were saying why it was so important that you, as the kind of artist you are, it plays that role. Could you talk a little bit about your relationship with the Grammys and what that means for you?
Well, I've recently become governor of the DC chapter of the Grammy Association. And I think initially going into it, so I've always worn a lot of different hats, but initially going into it, I didn't really understand it. I took the stance that most people of color take, where we call the Grammys they, they're keeping us out and they're doing these things. And not to say that there are not certain rooms that, all of us are not invited into, but I say that it is a member-run organization in its setup, in its construct. And it's not to say that any system can't have corruption at some level, but it's constructed in a way to be member run. So when I started learning about the fact that we just have to get more members, if we want certain interests represented, we have to get people who those interests matter to them to sign up and to become a part of the Grammy organization in order to have more of those interests and those needs met. Another dope thing that I learned, which is why, I'm an advocate for it. A lot of young artists don't know that you can get health care through the Grammys. They don't know how difficult it is as an artist to be able to just get health care or dental care. I've called these companies, and when you tell them that you're an artist for a living, they do not take you seriously. That might as well be the same as unemployed, And so that's one thing. They have a lot of other great resources where you're able to network with a lot of other artists and producers and get in studio. There's so many benefits to being on the Grammy board and a part of the Grammy organization aside from being nominated. Like at the time that I was nominated for the Roots, I had no idea how the Grammy process worked at all. I didn't understand about voting and about electing and being in those rooms where you're deciding who's going to be on those ballots, But once you understand the process, it doesn't seem as spooky anymore. It doesn't seem like an outside entity doing something to you, And I guess, because we've seen so much of the conspiracies within our government and within our culture and society and so much of the culture vulture energy, it's not unrealistic or irrational for us to jump to that thought, to that conclusion. But I do think that this is an organization in which multiple interests can be met, in particular interests of urban and interests of people of color can be met. And the importance of it is that when you see a song win, or artists win on the Grammys, a lot of labels use that as almost like a template of what types of music to now put money behind. And that's really important. Like you saw when Kendrick won, now there's starting to be more and more artists that are tilting their perspective, more towards political concepts and song titles, and just, what I mean. You're starting to see that shift. I knew about 3 years ago. I was in a writing session, and someone told me, all that conscious stuff that you've been on is about to come back in style. You're finally gonna be in style. The natural hair is about to come back in. So I had to just keep my natural hair while it wasn't in style. I was just holding on for the moment it was back in style. And now it's in hashtag natural hair, hashtag black girl magic, and hashtag curly girls. So now I'm back in style. Hey. Hey. I had to hold on for them years after the soul movement died. Right. And I was like, oh God, right. I'm out here on a limb by myself. Everybody got a perm, but I couldn't. My mother wouldn't allow me to. So no, so I just had to hold on, to God's unchanging hand. And look at it. Look at God. Won't he do it? And come back around. I'm back in style. Blackness is cool again. All the new black people that just found out that they was black. I'm sorry.
Black is back. All in, we're going to win.
Back. Black is back.
So, Maimouna Youssef, before we unfortunately have to wrap this up, let everybody know what is coming next and where they can go to find out more.
Yes. So please, you can go to my website and sign my mailing list. I'm always sending out blasts about everything that's happening. Whenever I release a new song, when I'm performing somewhere. Again, I'm going to be touring with Common this year. He's releasing a new album as well. So mumufresh.com, mumufresh.com. My Twitter is at Team Mumu Fresh. My Facebook is Maimouna Youssef Music. I'm on Facebook a lot. I'm on Instagram probably the most, at Mumu Fresh. My website, though, has all of these handles. But yeah, just if you sign up for my mailing list via my website, you'll be able to stay up to date with everything that's happening. And if you want to help, if you're like, hey, this girl, she could use my help. We're building Team Mumu Fresh groups in different cities so that when the albums drop, we have hands on deck on the ground.
Thank you very much for doing this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. Again, for all involved, I'm Jared Ball, saying, as Fred Hampton used to say, to you we say peace if you're willing to fight for it. So peace, everybody, and we'll catch you in a whirlwind.